On today's show, we have our spoiler-free review of the new Marvel film, Iron Man 3.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so today we are revisiting Iron Man. For those who have been long-time followers, we talked about Iron Man 2 way back when on Pad's Camera Action with Dermo. But God bless him. Can we get a little info?
Anyway,
so yeah, we're back with Tony Stark, and this time round, the film is not directed by Jon Favreau. Instead, it's by Shane Black of Kiss Kiss Bang Bang fame. I'm a really big fan of his work, and yeah, it's the continuing adventures of Iron Man, Tony Stark after the events of New York in the Avengers. Dan, what did you think about Iron Man 3?
well, first of all, do you think that's weird for Jon Favreau? Like, he's just on set, and but he's not the...
But he's not allowed to say anything.
Yeah,
he's just an actor at this stage.
Anymore. Yeah, I don't know.
That must be weird for him.
But, okay, so Iron Man 3, as you might have gathered, is filled with spectacular moments. You know, there are so many things in this film, and in all the Marvel films, really. You just see things, and part of you is just like, oh my God. So you're looking at the screen and you can't believe that this is actually something that's happening. Yeah. And there are so many moments like that. And Tony Stark is still charming and he is still funny. And I did still find myself laughing a lot during this film.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that all really isn't enough to overcome the fact that a lot of times this film just didn't make much sense. Like, there's a really weak plot running through this film, and things just happen here and there, and you're just like, and you just find yourself going, okay then, all right, that's okay, and that's not good. Like, if you stripped all the superhero away from this, the review that I would be giving now was, what is this rubbish? Because unlike previous films, unlike Iron Man 1, like it doesn't, you can't strip it away without losing anything. It doesn't do, it doesn't tell its story very well even, and it's not very engaging on a personal level. And yeah, I'm sort of hating having to say these words because I at the same time, you have to sort of balance that with the fact that so much fun is had just through nature of it being Iron Man and just through nature of you seeing these characters that you really like.
Yeah.
There's a big twist in the film, which we're not going to spoil.
Spoiler free.
I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I didn't like it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's sort of things twist and go on their head a bit, and what you thought wasn't.
It's not like a little twist, it's a 180, it's a whoop.
Yeah, and I just felt like, I was just a bit let down. I was a bit let down by the end credit scene. And just all in all, I just didn't think this was a very well-told story. I said to you going in that what I needed from this, if this was really gonna do, not be Iron Man 2, then I needed something different. I can't just see another Iron Man film. And unfortunately for me, that's what it was. And not only that, it also suffered from the fact that, where'd you go from Avengers? A lot of the things that Tony Stark struggles with this is, where do you go after New York? Although, he doesn't struggle with it very often. But like, I felt like that as a viewer as well. Like, you have the Avengers and all this. In a comic book, you can have Thor and you can have them all just turn up, and if things get crazy or the reference, then you can cut to a panel and it doesn't cost you anything. In a film, you can't really do that, so you can't help feeling, you've had the Avengers, you've had this big climax. So this film, as well as not, I think, not being a very well told story, it sort of suffers from a bit of a whimper after we've had this sort of crescendo. So for me, I enjoyed it because it was Iron Man, but I don't think it was a great film.
I disagree with a lot of points that you've said there. I will say that there were a lot of... some of it really didn't make sense, and there were a lot of kind of character emotional flip-flops that came out of nowhere and things like that. And, you know, I do get annoyed with inconsistencies like that, but it's also a complaint I've had with previous superhero films. You know, there are moments in, you know, you come out of The Dark Knight Rises going, well, why would he have done that instead of that, and how did that happen? You know, I come out of those films with that, and it's not a good thing, but it's something that if a film is strong enough, I can overlook it. And I thought that, like, what this film was, that in my opinion was different to the others. You know, you had your first one, which was all about Tony Stark coming to grips with, you know, his situation he was in, and, you know, changing himself for the better. The second film, which I still think is the weakest of the three, it was all about him coming to terms with that, you know, I'm a big superhero now, you know, I'm the top dog, and how it's almost like a struggle with fame. And this newest one is just like, the way that I feel as though they approached it was to say, look, Tony Stark isn't useless without the suit. Like, that's not what Tony Stark's thing is. Like, and in this film, they were out to prove that Tony Stark is Iron Man. It's not Tony Stark and Iron Man. And I think they did that brilliantly. But as well as showing how strong of a character he is, they also showed how vulnerable of a character Robert Downey Jr. is emotionally, and how much the events of New York affected him. And I really like that element of the story. I'm getting the sense that you didn't. It was a bit too probably hammy for yourself or something like that.
Well, I didn't feel like it was just. It didn't feel integrated into the story very well. Like, it was just like every now and then something would happen and be like, oh, remember this? He's emotional. You know, I didn't feel like I didn't really believe it. It was a bit weird. It was just like, oh, we should put that in there. We'll put that in there. We'll put that in there. They weren't really connected.
Well, it's trying to toe the line between comedy and seriousness. And it's a bit of a struggle for the film, because it opens up with this really quite comedic premise. You know, it's all set in 1999 New Year's party, and then, like, it goes really serious, but you struggle to take it seriously knowing what just happened. Having said that, I was able to get immersed into it, and I thoroughly enjoyed this film, as I have the last couple of Iron Man films. I still don't think it's as strong as the first one, but I'd say it's definitely better than Iron Man 2.
It is better than Iron Man 2.
And the big one for me that I went into this was saying, you know, I don't want to have another mech versus mech fight. I don't want to see Iron Man v Iron Man again for the third time running. And they didn't do that. And, you know, I was very happy with that. And the way what they went with instead felt believable, and I was happy to go along with that ride. And I loved the twist.
Did you?
It made, like, it was one of those moments where I was like, oh, what's happened? Yeah, okay, you got me. It's cool, I like it. I was game for it. I like it when a film just kind of goes, and it really did have that same kind of sense of humour as Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Shane Black's previous work with Robert Downey Jr. And you can really see that in the kind of script writing and the performance, that they really honed in on the, you know, the really quippy one-liners and the playing about with the tropes of those type of films and things like that.
Too much of that as well. Like, I felt that with Iron Man 2. That was one of my big problems with Iron Man 2. It's like too much Tony Stark, like, and not... See, with this, like, they tried to have their cake and eat it, I feel. They wanted everything. They wanted Tony Stark action hero. They wanted Tony Stark one-liner. They wanted Tony Stark, emotional, sensitive, New York. And ultimately, it just felt off. That didn't feel like a connected line of a character to me. That just felt like that's where he's doing the emotional bit. That's where he's doing this. And it didn't kind of... it wasn't believable to me. Having said that, it was better than Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
There's certainly more in it than Iron Man 2, and it was funny. And if you watch the show,
it was funny.
You're gonna enjoy it. Well, like, I mean,
well, here's the thing: if you're watching this review, you're going to go and see it.
The Marvel films, the Marvel films can be bad, and I'll still enjoy them.
But the thing, like, out of all the Marvel films that they've done in recent time, Iron Man 2 was the worst. And that's really saying something good for them, because Iron Man 2 wasn't awful. Like, it was it was good. It was mediocre action film, and if that's the bottom at the moment, like, you just go into these Marvel films with a certain level of expectation, and sometimes it will go above. Very, very rarely it will go below. Normally it will hit what you want.
Do you feel as I did with the sort of Avengers thing, whereas like, you know,
that's the other thing, is that I know now every 5 years, every 4 or 5 years, or however long it is between the Avengers films, that this is my bar, and then that 1 year that the Avengers is coming out, the bar goes up there a bit, and I do expect that, but I don't think it's wrong to expect that big, you know,
no, but at the same,
all these little ones are leading up to this massive event. I don't think it's unreal.
No, that's great, and that's something we've never had before. But this just feels like a whimper in comparison to what we had with the film.
I wouldn't say a whimper. I wouldn't say a whimper.
Well, no, not a whimper, perhaps, but it just feels less. It just feels like not.
It was always
as exciting.
It was always gonna.
It was, and I just, as I say, I also feel like there's nothing new here for me, and the character stuff they tried to put into it felt forced and not very believable.
Well, there you have it. That's our review of Iron Man 3. If you've already seen the film, what did you think of it? Put it down there in the comments.
Put it down in the comments, but please try not to leave any spoilers in case people haven't seen it already.
And you can also tweet us what you thought of it at Comic Book Show 1. You know, we like to hear from you over in the Twitterverse as well.
We absolutely do. We hope you've enjoyed all of our videos this week, and we will see you once again, like always, next week.
Mo.
God bless him.
Can we get a little info?